Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Clough.
Present.
Alderman Coleman.
Present.
Alderman Dale.
Present.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Present.
Alderman Langford.
Present.
Alderman Speck. Everybody present except Alderman Speck.
Everyone's present but Alderman Speck. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Improved minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Approve the minutes of last month's meeting, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Alderman Dale. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion pass. Next item is additions or deletions to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of additions, please.
Okay.
One, I would like to request to add that the public be given time during our agenda to make comments should they choose. The second item I would like to add is discussion of a referendum to allow the public input on term limits for city government. The third item is discussion of agenda policies, and I have some discussions from MTAS on that.
What was the last one, Kelly?
Agenda policy,
Okay.
how we set an agenda, et cetera.
Okay, there's a motion by Alderman Coleman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion?
We're voting all three of these at once.
I was going to.
Sure.
But we need to do them individually. All right, all three of these at once, yes. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Clough.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Dale.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Langford.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Number 6, the public certainly will have a right to speak, and we have got a large crowd here, and what I'm going to do is just simply pass this around, and everyone that would like to speak, please sign in, okay? You'll be given 2 minutes to speak, and we will go from there, okay? And I will, or no, you're already on the agenda, so you don't have to sign it. I don't know where to start to hand these out, but anybody, there's some ink pens up here.
If you want to let people know there's room to stand over here, they can.
Okay. There is room over here to stand if anybody would like to come over or not. That's completely up to you. All right. Item number 1 under new business, home grant policy procedure resolution. Ms. Amanda Maynard from Grassroots Planning and Consulting. Ms. Maynard.
Yes, there we go. Now can you hear me? I believe Mayor Hayes and Ms. Phyllis has included an award letter in your packet tonight, but first of all, I need to say congratulations. We actually received funds in the amount of $500,000 for our home grant this year, so we had the policies and procedures to review and pass tonight, and then we, later this month, will be discussing holding a public hearing to take applications and things of that nature. These policies and procedures, of course, they're set by THDA, and they just outline the guidelines that we move forward and use to pursue the home grant.
Okay. So this resolution for adopt a formal policy and procedures for the THDA home project, whereas the mayor and board of aldermen believe that all citizens in the town of Livingston should have safe, decent, and affordable housing, and whereas the board believes that it is important to serve the elderly, disabled, and migratory population of the town of Livingston who are low, moderate income, needing safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And whereas the formal standardized set of policy and procedure has been developed for all THDA home, housing, rehab, construction projects, and whereas the town of Livingston Board of Aldermen has recognized the need for consistency in all operations and will abide by the set policy and procedures. Be it further resolved, the town of Livingston Board of Aldermen lends full faith and support to the adoption of the standardized set of policies and procedures for all THDA home, housing, rehab, and reconstruction projects. Okay.
Is there anything in the policies that y'all would like for me to review? Do you have any questions on that? Of course, this is eligible citizens. There's different criteria that must be met in order for them to receive assistance. But the town of Livingston, we are eligible to do rehabilitation, reconstruction, and that would mean demolishing the existing home and replacing it with a new home, or replacing manufactured homes as well. So.
Right. Well, first I want to say job well done on writing the
Yes,
grant.
thank you.
This is going to be exciting.
It's been, the last project I remember you getting funded through the home grant was 2010.
Right.
So that's been 12 years ago.
Right. Okay.
I have one quick question, Mayor. Congratulations again. Once these applications are submitted and reviewed, about how long do you anticipate funds being distributed?
I would like, the sooner the better, in my opinion, and I feel like you would think that as well. Of course, it takes some time. We have to do an environmental review. We do one on the front end, then we have to individualize each house. So I would think, let's say October.
Awesome.
October to December. Let's say that, because you never know with government funding.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there a motion? Motion made by Alderman Langford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Ken Dotson. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, motion pass.
Thank you.
Do you want me to sign this now, or you want to just,
You can email it later.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, point of privilege.
Yes.
I think the placards of a personal and, to some people, offensive nature are inappropriate in this venue and should be removed.
Is that,
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment on that. I respect Dr. Clough's views on this. I believe it might be important to ask our city attorney to advise us on that.
yeah, okay, John, if you'll come to the podium, please. Alderman Clough, if you'll direct your question.
Mr. Mayor, it wasn't a question, it was
Okay.
a point of privilege.
Okay.
I think the placards in the back that could be offensive to some are inappropriate for this setting in this venue, and I would ask that they be removed.
I don't know that you can do that, Mr. Clough.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows.
All right. Item number 2, Mr. Arno Proctor.
Thank you for putting me on, Mayor and Alderman.
Yes, sir.
Speaking in the microphone.
It's on, but I'll move it over.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Mr. Proctor, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Since, according to what I have been held here, did everyone sign this that wanted to speak? You won't, Okay.
Can you sign that with a maybe? How do you know you want to speak until you hear what they're speaking?
I do.
So I'll put my name up
Okay,
there.
well,
with my-
I
I'm Sharon Paul.
want to.
I'll write you down.
I want to speak. My name is Miss Judy.
Yeah, we got you at the top, Miss Judy.
Oh, is that what? Okay. Okay, everyone will have 3 minutes to speak. We'll start with Mr. Proctor.
Well, mine's gonna take a little more than 3 minutes.
Everybody's going to get 3 minutes.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
My recommendation, and I don't know if I need to make this motion, I would like to see us move through the agenda as is planned and then add the public comments at the end.
Okay, well, Mr. Proctor's on the agenda right
I
now,
know, but
number
you
2. Do you want to move him to the?
No, but I believe you stated that Mr. Proctor is the first one.
Yeah.
Implying that the remainder of the public would then go next.
No.
Okay.
That's not
So
what I
can
was-
we clarify that?
Yeah, no, as we added on the agenda, the 6, that is where the public will speak. Mr. Proctor asked specifically to be on the agenda, and he was placed on the agenda. Yes, sir. Take it away.
Thank you.
3 minutes, Ken, start the clock.
I'm sorry, what?
Tell Ken you got 3 minutes to start the clock.
Shouldn't you vote on
Huh?
that? Let's vote on that.
This is very unusual. Nobody else has ever been told this when they got up to speak before the council.
We-
We're going to have order,
Okay,
okay?
sorry.
We're going to have order.
Sorry.
Well, all right, we're going to have order. I know that folks are passionate here on both sides,
I know, sorry.
so we're not going to be speaking out,
Sorry.
okay? Now, normally, according to our attorney, that there's an allotted time for folks to speak. Tonight, the allotted times is 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Your
I
apology
didn't
accepted.
understand. I'm sorry.
Okay. And I'm giving everybody ample opportunity to sign up and speak. Okay? All right. Mr. Proctor.
Curtis, I am not believing this. First thing I want to say, though, the
Restart.
city workers, the fire department, the police officers, thanks for all the long hours and all you did when the storm came through. Also, Upper Cumberland Electric, Twin Lakes, they were out there on the job getting everybody's done. We had neighbors helping neighbors. It was good to see the community come together and do so much. I had more in here, but I got 3 minutes, so I'll skip to the bad part. But I do want to state some of my qualifications to talk about management. I got a BBA at the University of Memphis, a Master of Science degree at the University of Arkansas with a major in operations management. I have been an executive in various companies. I mean an executive, not just a manager, for 30 years. I do want to say this is part of something else, but I do not think Greg Etheridge took the money. It was just loose oversight and probably piddled out a little at a time over the years till somebody got really greedy and took enough that it was noticed. I'm going to list some areas that I think we need to look at, the council and the mayor and the city attorney. Number one, the mayor and alderman were not overseeing the police department. If they had, Greg probably would not have had to resign. Alderman and mayor not recusing themselves for voting on a friend when it came up about Greg. You can't party with a man and be fair in a judgment of him. And mayor, I don't know how you still mayor. You double dipped on expenses, it was in the paper, and the reason is because the only way anyone sitting up front can be removed is everyone sitting up front vote them out. There is no recall allowed for us because it's in the city charter that the alderman and mayor police themselves. Long time ago in 2020, our house burned, July the 4th weekend. Most of the people, by the way, we had a volunteer fire department. We had one fireman on duty at a time. The fireman comes, everybody's at the lake, myself and our neighbor and my mother-in-law and father-in-law are trying to put out the fire. Finally, some of the volunteers got called in, and they did a good job at that point, but a lot of our house burned. In fact, it was destroyed.
Arno, your time is up. 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
May I get on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 3, fireworks, Alderman Coleman.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to request that that be tabled, please.
Okay. Motion made by Alderman Coleman to table item number 3. Is there a second? Table it.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Dodson. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Okay, item number 4 is the LPD. Interim Chief Ray Smith. Is Ray, you gonna give a progress report?
Yes, sir, and thanks for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Livingston City Police Department to the Council and Board Mayor. We have made steps toward fixing some of the solutions and coming up with solutions with DA. Mr. Dunaway was contacted by myself, and he has asked, and I asked him to join me in the fixing of the needs we have at the police department, and Mr. Dunaway has assured me that an agent will be joining me this week to oversee and take care of and get things back in order under policies and procedures that's already been set in place by MTASC and the Livingston City Police Department at this time. We are looking to move forward. We do have a lot of things ahead of us, but we do have experienced men and women that can take up these tasks and take care of whatever the need may be. And for a personal note, I'm proud of the Livingston Police Department. I've served it since 1998, and I just thank for the opportunity to be a part of setting it back in the straight. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Cap. Has anybody got any questions for?
I have a question, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Captain. What is your estimate on how long that inventory may take?
The DA said we're going to move through very thoroughly and slowly. I asked him to give me a time, and he said he would not lock himself down into a time. He don't expect it to be a long-term thing, but he wants to be thorough about it, that we can come back to a report to the board and mayor and to the city itself and say, this is what we found, this is what we've done, and the situation has been took care of.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I have some questions. Yes, sir. Congratulations, Interim Chief Smith. I realize that you, more than anyone in this room, recognize that you have a very tough job ahead.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind repeating for me again, about how long have you been at the police department?
Since 1998.
All right. And in those years, have you ever experienced anything like the last two have been in terms of the stress on yourself, your family, your coworkers? Have you ever experienced anything quite this stressful?
No, sir.
Do you believe that it's taken an emotional toll on the remainder of the staff that we actually have left?
Yes, sir, and even by this room that's got folks in it, I'd say it's taken a great emotional toll.
All right, thank you. And I have another question for you. In the last meeting, it was announced that an employee, a current employee, I believe, was found in the comptroller's report to have, quote, borrowed cash, borrowed evidence cash. In your opinion, has that matter been resolved to your satisfaction?
No, sir.
Why not?
I think it needs to be clarified of what we mean by borrowing.
All right, thank you. So with that in mind, I have a question for our city attorney, John Meadows, please. Mr. Meadows, is it possible for you to seek further clarification from the comptroller and the DA on, quote, both the evidence custodian and former captain have stated that they had borrowed undeposited seized cash for personal purchases and would later pay it back, end of quote. In my opinion, this must be dealt with immediately. The other employees at the department must resent that nothing other than supposedly, quote, reassigning someone is the only action that they have received. The entire mess has to be resolved, not just part of it. It's determined that this occurred per the comptroller, then a termination is justified according to policy. My question is it possible to go back to the DA and to the comptroller and seek further clarification and details on the borrowing of cash from the evidence?
Well, I think with respect to the comptroller's office, I don't think the comptroller's is going to discuss anything behind what's in their written report. I think that's what they've disclosed to us at the exit interview. Okay, now I think in the comptroller's report, I don't think they specifically identified exactly who, they didn't identify them by name, I don't think, in the comptroller's report. However, it's my understanding that the employee that you're referencing, it's my understanding that that employee was maybe initiating some process with the comptroller's office to clarify that for themselves. I think there was also
Excuse me just 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Could you repeat that? I'm not aware of that. Do you mind?
Yeah, it's my
explaining
understanding that particular employee had an issue with what was in the comptroller's report and was taking it up with the comptroller, okay? And other information provided by the district attorney was, I had questioned him about that before, and I think the information that was provided to me was that particular employee had, in the records that they had revealed during their investigation, revealed that employee had documented things and looked like they was trying to make an effort to I guess, document these things about money that was taken out by another employee. But I think there was some discrepancy between exactly what the comptroller reported and what the TBI might have found in relation to that.
Okay, great.
If that answers your question. But I can get with General Dunaway and try to get some more specific clarification on that issue if the
I would
the board
appreciate
likes.
that. I think that it would be very helpful, really, to dispel some concerns that not only I have myself, but I'm certain other people do as well. I believe that this employee deserves full due process to either clear their name or let the DA or the comptroller prove their comments that were stated in their report. I'm not asking this body to take any action other than you're requesting if further details can be gathered on that. Because according to the policy, if you dip your hand into the evidence, that's grounds for immediate termination. And I think that needs to be flushed out completely. And I'm not stating that this employee is guilty. I quoted what the report says. So I think we need an additional investigation into that. And I think this board needs to consider further action on that, in that respect, on that issue.
Any other questions for me before I walk over here?
I don't have any further questions, John. Thank you. I do have some additional comments, but not on that particular subject, but I'll be quiet and see if anybody else wants to talk.
Kelly, could you restate the last part of what you said? You feel that we need to, I mean, before you said flush that out, which I agree with, that's obviously shouldn't happen. But then you said, I think we should take further action.
Let me clarify. I believe I said, if not, this is what I intended to say. I'm not asking this body to take any action tonight. My request would be that the city attorney help us to flush it out. Let's find out really what happened, other than just a simple quote in the report. Can we get more details? And then if further action is needed, that may be a discussion that this body needs to have at a later time. But I think it needs to be resolved. There doesn't need to be any suspicion. I mean, either this happened or it didn't happen, and we need proof. Okay. Anybody? Okay. So, everybody here knows I have a lot of opinions. I talk a lot. I've dominated this microphone a lot, and I apologize for that. But I have a job to do. The citizens of this town elected me, and they put their faith in me. And I swore to an oath. And my oath says that I shall I'm not looking for kudos, so please. I shall faithfully and honestly and impartially fulfill my duties. This has been very difficult. I really like Greg Etheridge. You won't find much finer of a person. His mother has always been a great friend of mine, and I adore her. This hurts them. It's hard for us. Small towns make it even harder when friendships are involved. So this is no fun, okay? By far, it's the most challenging issue that's come before this board in my tenure. But I have to be honest. And in being honest, I have to share my views. So, pardon me, but these are my views. These are my opinions based on my thorough review of the facts, the circumstances, the conversations that I've had. And all things considered with this mess. I would like to begin by stating the obvious. This entire issue involving our city police department is an unfortunate situation that has resulted in reputations being harmed, friendships being damaged, families of our entire workforce being subjected to community harassment. If you don't believe me, ask them. Great and long-term employees of the department have departed the force, and ultimately, our community is left asking questions about why. Why did this happen? Why wasn't this dealt with years ago? Why are there people still here that may have admitted to wrongdoing? Frankly, in my opinion, this is an embarrassment. It's a black eye on how we manage our town, and this must never be allowed to happen again. In my opinion, we all at this table share blame. We are held to account by the citizens with your trust to see that not only the police department, but all areas of our city government are being held to the highest standards of integrity and professionalism. That is our job. We are here because of a total lack of oversight, attention to detail, and a lack of proper supervision and accountability. And not only by Mr. Etheridge, but by the mayor, as well as ourselves, the elected aldermen. I accept my responsibility for my portion of the lack of oversight. And I offer my apology to this community for not doing a better job. Our city operates on policies and procedures that must be adhered to. There are no valid excuses for wavering so far off the track in this circumstance. This missing money has been known about for years and been willfully kept quiet in hopes that it would just get resolved. That, in my opinion, is unacceptable. And the consequences of that inaction leaves us in this unfortunate mess. We must do better. Leaders must lead with integrity, follow the codes of conduct, and abide by the laws of Tennessee. Now, we have a low morale among those remaining at the police department and have experienced departures from some of our most senior force. We have a lot of work to be done. I know that Ray is a man of integrity and will do his absolute best to work within the policies to get this train back on the tracks. I'm very pleased to learn today that the DA's office is back and willing to assist Ray in every way possible to clean up the mess. And I do have a few recommendations, and I'll share those when I finish my statement. I do feel, in complete fairness to Mr. Etheridge, I know that he is, and I have this capitalized in my notes, a good man. I do not believe that he took the money. Greg has a huge heart and one that I believe is dedicated to serving other people. Greg has brought a passion to help people into his job every day. I've heard countless stories of the many ways that he's helped families in need in this community. I know he's caring. I know he is generous. But he may be generous almost to a fault. I know that he's gone above and beyond many, many, many times to help people in need, families in desperate situations, and strangers he's never met before. I would like to personally thank Greg Etheridge for his years of service to our town. He deserves full credit for the many wonderful ways that he has had a positive impact on our town and all of us. His gifts of service are a natural part of Greg's strengths, in my opinion. I wish Greg and his lovely family nothing but the best. They deserve our full support. I can't imagine what they're going through tonight. We're all human, and we sometimes miss the mark. But at the end of the day, I know that Greg is someone who probably has a lot of regret about some of the errors that he may have made. I ask, let's support him. Let's be grateful that his decision was made in what he described as the best interest of our community. And he loves this community. Sadly, as I said before, I honestly believe that this boils down to a lack of oversight and that his lost focus on the day-to-day basics of running a tight ship. This was something that began under his watch, yet was allowed to fester like an evil cancer and has snowballed until now we have a serious problem. Again, in defense of Mr. Etheridge, in my heart, I do not believe Greg took money, any money. There's blame to be shared, and I believe, as I said earlier, that there's enough blame to go around. As I said, the mayor and the Board of Aldermen have shared responsibilities. According to multiple reports from both employees, current and former, the discovery of the missing evidence cache, which was allegedly, in the DA's letter, he said, allegedly seized. It's allegedly seized because there are no documents receiving this cache. Okay? Wrap your mind around that one. He states in his letter that it is allegedly seized. The discovery of the missing evidence was reported up the chain of command, I understand, years ago. An immediate notification to the comptroller and the DA should have occurred and not waited up to 2 years. This information was reportedly known to the chief, the captain, the evidence clerk, and the mayor as far back as early as maybe late 18, early 19. The former chief was enabled to procrastinate. All in what I describe was an effort and a directive to go find the problem, when in fact the problem of discovered tampered evidence is required by policy to be reported immediately to the state of Tennessee. We aldermen were not notified of this issue until early 2021. Mr. Etheridge came to each of us individually and told us what was going on. Our attorney immediately asked us each to contact the comptroller's office to inform them of this issue. And we did. To the best of my knowledge, the chief was never held accountable to submit the required, these are according to policy, evidence room inspection reports. It's in the policy. You must do an annual inspection of the evidence room, and it must be submitted to the mayor within 5 business days. Verbatim policy. In addition, there is also a requirement for an informal inspection to be done once a year by someone who has no other evidence room responsibilities but who works within the department. This is for independence, of course. I do not believe there are any records of such inspections. I requested copies, never received them. The chief of police has a direct supervisor. That's the mayor. And we, as a board, are responsible for ensuring compliance and checks and balances are being enforced. I believe that's what we're elected to do, and we failed. The former chief was given too much freedom and not enough accountability. Fraternizing, socializing, and allowing close personal friendships between boss and subordinate always is a recipe for problems, because inevitably the sailing's not always going to be smooth, and bosses have to manage. But when there's close connections of friendships and your buddies, you can't lead. It makes it almost impossible. In our government, the relationship between a city hall and the supervisors must be professional first and personal second. It'll never work unless you keep those relationships separate. Proper boundaries between personal and professional is a must for a good leader. I'm angry. I'm disappointed that the proper steps weren't followed at all levels of the chain of command, because I believe we most certainly would not be sitting here talking about this tonight. It would have been dealt with and resolved long ago. It now may take us years to regain your trust, and I regret that. In any organization, the man at the top must bear the responsibility. It's been said countless times to me, well, Greg put too much trust in his people. The man at the top bears responsibility. Okay? The buck stops there. No doubt that Mr. Etheridge should have accepted responsibility for the deficiencies. He was charged with full responsibilities for managing that office. Not a single one of us at this table created this mess. But I believe, again, that the lack of supervision and oversight is why we're here today. Last, I want to say that I personally have great respect for the many who have shown tremendous courage to stand up to power and try to do the right thing. And I'm referring to you good cops. They have waited patiently for a year and a half to see us resolve this problem. And when they felt, following June 6th, that their voices hadn't been heard, the frustration began to boil over, leading to 5 resignations of senior officers, including multiple sergeants. We owe them our respect and should thank them for their perseverance. It's my understanding that we're making progress on rehiring some of those employees, which would be, in my opinion, great. I know that these officers who have resigned made personal calls, they wrote letters, and they came to visit all of us, most of us on this table, all in an effort just to be heard. The good old boy system of who you are, who your friends are, with or what your last name might be in our city government must end. Full stop. Our citizens, you, I know, I've heard from you, are sick and tired and want to see a change. Nothing erodes morale and mistrust of employees faster than when they witness favors for friends and people being treated special based on who you are or what you can do for them. It's sickening and it's deplorable. We are better than this, Livingston. Treat each person fairly, regardless. I have faith in our new interim chief, Mr. Ray Smith, that you can do this. And you will do this. I'm asking you, the citizens, for your continued patience as Mr. Smith works through establishing himself as the leader in charge and resolving some years-long problems. He needs all of our support. Please encourage Ray and be certain to thank our officers who have put themselves on the line every day to protect us. Pray for them and encourage them. They need it. They deserve it. Thank you.
Item number 5 is donate lights from Rickman to the Rickman Recreational League. We was donated some lights from local contractors from the high school, and, but we are not going to be able to use them. This recreational league has got room for the lights, so they're really surplus now. I'd just like to donate it to them. It didn't cost us any money.
Motion to donate.
Motion made by Alderman Rexdale,
Second.
second by Alderman Coleman. All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, we're at the segment where the public can speak. Up first is Miss Judy Roberts.
I need some help getting up there. Who'll help me? Okay, get that.
Yeah, we bring this start.
Okay.
Oh, no, he got one.
She already has.
And I need a microphone that's loud. I've been to the dentist. You have to stand up and have a He used to be in my room, so I still call him name. First of all, if I've ever been your teacher, I want you to stand up. Yes, you too. Curtis, stand up. I was your teacher.
Okay.
If I've ever been, Dwayne, get up. No, I wasn't your teacher. I taught your wife in student teaching. I got it mixed up. Anybody else in here been in my room or? Okay. I just want to say, I've been to the dentist and I know y'all are proud because I'd talk more. At one time, my close cousin was Governor A.H. Roberts of the great state of Tennessee. And it is the greatest state in America. And we live, you can clap if you want to. Can they clap now? Okay, I'm sorry. We live in the greatest country in the whole world. Nobody can question that. I fell up here when the sidewalks was being done, and that's why I'm so pitiful and crippled, because I tripped when they was making the new sidewalks. And I'm not saying it was the city's fault. I'm just saying I have to pay a housekeeper because I can't do it. Okay, things like this. And I asked the mayor, could you at least buy me a pair of glasses? I broke my glasses. And I have to have $400 glasses. He never did get back with me. If I had my time to do over, I could have sued, but I didn't because I love our city. All right, years ago, I've been teaching 40 years, and I'm not old. I just told you I'm medium. The Pilgrims, I taught 40 years of kids about our great country. And if you ever had me for a teacher, Kelly Coleman, you know I did. That I said the Pilgrims came where we could be free. Freedom of speech. You know, we came because this is the greatest country in the world because God's in charge. And if God ever goes away, we won't be. And anybody listening could sue me. I believe in God, and I'd rather be sued for that than anything. Okay, and I've got one more point. We came to this country because we were overtaxed. And you know, this bunch of pitiful, I'd tell my kids, this bunch of pitiful people got on a boat, and they sent convicts because they didn't want them, you know. But we came, and we're the greatest. My cousin would be proud of me that was governor. Okay. Our town, and I'm saying the police department, and my husband's a policeman, and he'll shoot me for talking, joking, has two sets of rules. If a rich person gets drunk and falls down, that's one rule. If a poor person gets drunk, that's another rule. I always taught my kids we were the fairest and the best country anywhere, and I still believe that, Carol Ann. You call me Miss Judy. I don't like it when you don't call me Miss Judy. Okay. Now,
Miss Judy?
Is my time up?
Your time's up. ma'am.
Okay,
The
I
alarm went off.
apologize that my time was up, but I love Livingston, and I wished I'd sued. I have to have help cleaning my house, everything. But I didn't, because I love that man up there, Curtis.
Thank you.
You're the only reason I didn't.
Thank you.
And I'm really poor. Thank you all.
Can somebody help Miss Roberts?
Would somebody help me up?
Gotcha.
I'm shaking.
Yeah, it's shaking.
I'm a little, David, you may have to help me. I used to help his daddy in church. I guess he can help me.
Here, Judy, just sit right here.
I'm shaking too much. It'll take some people to help me say it, David.
All right. David, you take her hands from the right.
I'm shaking, I'm sorry.
Judy,
Yeah.
you're out there.
I'm just, I've
All
been
right, come on down.
to the dentist and I don't feel good.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Miss Judy.
Miss Judy. Miss Judy Smith, sorry.
I'm sorry, I go by Miss Judy.
Okay.
Yes, I do, honey. Thank you. Here,
Jamie Melton.
thank you.
Yeah. So, next we have Jamie Melton.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman, for letting me speak. I just feel like what Kelly Coleman his speech that he just done, if that would have been addressed last month, a lot of this, the questions the citizens had and the questions that the citizens was left just feeling like, what just happened? He gave us some transparency, he gave us some insight, and it's you guys that have to lead this community for us, and I know it can be better and it will be better, and I hope and pray that this is a big lesson for everyone and that we go forward with this. All we want is honesty. The citizens want honesty. We want transparency. We want you to listen. And that's really all I need to say, but thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Miss Melton. Mr. Ron Lane.
My name is Ron Lane. I'm a city resident. Counselor, am I allowed to ask my representatives a question or just a comment?
I think the chairman has the discretion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to ask?
Just comments, thank you.
Just comments?
Yes, thank you.
Then my topic is industrial classifications in the city.
Okay.
I'm wondering if this move towards getting industrial zoning closer into town is a good one. Do we have, I can't ask a question. I would encourage the board to think about whether or not we can obtain more industrial ground, dirt, somewhere else so that industrial stuff can happen outside rather than that which would be closer in. We understand commercial, we want commercial, we like growth, it's a good thing, but in my mind, there's a significant difference between commercial and industrial, even light industrial. Therefore, I'm asking that you guys take a look at whether or not we have any, and if we do, make that available. If we don't, is there some place we can obtain more dirt? That's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to interject something that I felt. I did mention when I shared my views that I had a few suggestions. I'd just like to make one more point, if I may. Ms. Phyllis helped me recently do an analysis of our employee turnover within the police department. And during my term as alderman, which I'm concluding soon, 4-year term, our police department has had a 124% turnover rate. We have 31 employees in my tenure that have come and gone or been added to the payroll. This revolving door is not only expensive as heck, but it is terrible in trying to manage effectively. Too much time is spent on turnover and training. Leadership is a huge factor, and job satisfaction is tied to leadership. It's not just the wage. But I would implore Mr. Smith and this council to do an analysis survey of the surrounding communities and what their wage rates are for all levels of force at the police department. I know we did that back around 3 years ago when we did the pay scale, but I think it's time to do it again. If pay is one of those issues, I think we need to fix that. We can't afford in 4 more years to have another 124% turnover. And I think that's something that this council should really manage and watch closely, your turnover rates. It takes a huge toll, doesn't it, Mr. Smith? Yes, sir. Okay. I also wanted to recommend that the city consider developing a full-time position that's strictly for an individual to oversee the evidence room, evidence custodian. I think that deserves a full-time spot. One thing that I asked for back years ago, which I think is important for the community for transparency, would be to report monthly the number of arrests, citations, all that stuff. Just, it used to be in the newspaper, how many DUIs, how many this, how many that. People need to know that you're working, and that's a good measuring tool to see what's going on out there. How many speeding tickets are you writing? People complain, oh, they're speeding through my neighborhood. Well, are we really writing tickets? We won't know that unless you give us a report. I know we were getting it quarterly, but it was somewhat cumbersome in the way it was being presented, in my opinion. Request the full support and assistance by the DA and his staff in the evidence collection preservation issue, and I think you've already done that. Okay, that ends my discussion. Thank you.
Miss Jane Brewington? Yeah, push your button, Miss Brewington.
Push button. This one?
Yeah, you got it.
I wanted to speak to the rezoning of 4th and Oakland Park, if I could for just a moment. This is the second time since I've been living on Oakland Park that the effort has been made to rezone this area. It really is something I would just dread. I can't tell you how many times I've seen really big trucks go down that street, and then because they couldn't make the corners, slowly back up in front of me all the way back until they could get a place that they could turn. They couldn't turn really at this corner, couldn't turn at that corner. Some of the truckers were a little more aggressive, and so they did turn and made really, really deep treads, especially if it had rained recently, into like Memorial Baptist and my corner, wherever, to just try to get around. They just went up in our yards, and nobody did anything to say, we're sorry about that. They just sort of went, and you went out and saw. And it's noisy. I mean, just having more traffic. I already have somebody living across the street who is running sort of a quiet auto repair shop, and in that one little lot, he often has 9 cars over there, 9 cars in that one lot, just sitting in the lot. All that kind of stuff, we don't need more of it. I bought into a residential area. I want it to be quiet. I'm a light sleeper. I want to go to bed and not hear traffic coming and going and zooming. And please, leave our zoning alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brewington. Next, we have Ms. Sharon Paul.
And I may not be allowed to say this, but did I understand you, Kelly, as saying that the mayor knew of this discrepancy in 2017?
I did not, sir.
Okay, 2018, 19?
I said as far back as late 18, 19.
Okay, and the
early 19.
alderman here did not know until what other year?
I learned of it in 2021, between January and March.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Item number 7, referendum, Mr. Coleman.
Yes. I think that it would behoove the city of Livingston to consider adopting term limits for all of us at this table, and mirror, actually, copy what the city of Cookeville does. They have a 2-term limit. And I would like to see the people of this community have a voice on this issue. And so my question is, how do you go about doing that? What are your first steps? Can you explain that process?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about changing the charter, is what you're talking about doing, change the charter to change the form of government. You'd be going, I'm taking it you're wanting to go to if you want to be identical, you'd be going to a city manager type format, opposed to what we currently have.
No, that's not my question.
Okay.
My question, just to clarify,
Okay.
is for us to consider going to for term limits, does that require a charter change, as you bring up the charter, which is obviously an issue, or can it be put on a referendum for the people to voice their opinion? I'm not sure what the process is. I would like to begin that conversation.
So for a charter change to happen, the Board of Aldermen has to approve it, and then it goes to the General Assembly to be approved.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
So in other words, we, as this body, have to vote to change the charter.
That's correct.
Because our charter says we have unlimited, we can serve unlimited terms.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so how do we begin that process?
Well,
Would I have to call for discussion, make a recommendation, make a motion? How does that work?
You talking for alderman and mayor?
Yes.
Alderman or what?
All the people at this table.
well, we can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, let's
for
put it
next-
on the agenda for the
Okay.
next meeting.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
All
Okay,
right.
thanks. Oh, yeah, agenda policy. Okay, so just recently, it seems to be an issue of getting something that you want as an alderman on the agenda. So I reached out to MTAS and was told that they suggest that the board discuss a process for setting up meeting agendas, and that decision made by the board regarding how agendas are created be set out in a policy so that all members and the public understand the process. In the past, over the beginning, most of my tenure on this council, I would simply request that an item be added and it be added. But of late, that hasn't occurred. So I want to know, I make a motion that this board begin to craft, with the help of the city attorney, a policy that gives us framework on the setting of the agenda for all public meetings. That's my motion.
Motion by Alderman Coleman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
So you're talking about a I'm talking about, I understand, but I mean, you're talking about developing a policy rather than a procedure, but a policy of step A, step B, step C.
Great question, thank you. What I'm told by Melissa Ashburn, she's a legal advisor with MTAS, that it's common that municipalities have a policy and procedures for how you're to set an agenda for an open meeting, and I think that it's time for us to look at that. That's basically what I'm asking for. Is that clear?
It is, and maybe I should address this to John, Mr. Meadows. Doing something like that ahead of time, is that going to violate the sunshine laws? We have such strict, prohibitions on how we can communicate before the meeting.
It's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act for someone to request an item to be placed on the agenda or discuss scheduling a meeting. And the purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to prohibit governing bodies and boards such as yourself from meeting behind closed doors and making decisions about city business and government operations that are supposed to be open to the public. So, I think historically with this board, from what I've seen, the procedure, maybe the unofficial or procedure has been, if there's anything that's not on the agenda at the beginning of a city meeting, there's always someone may make a motion to add something to the agenda, and if that's voted on and it passes, it's added. I think that's typically the way it's been handled. But I understand some cities do have specific policies for how things get on the agenda, and you certainly can do that if that's what you choose to do.
Kelly? Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, can you remind me what we're voting on again?
I think, go ahead, Kelly.
I'm happy to repeat my motion and answer any questions that you have. The motion is that we work with the city attorney and MTAS to develop a policy and procedures that standardizes a framework for establishing agendas for open meetings.
Alderman Dale, did you? Yeah. You okay? All right. So we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Does anyone need me to clarify further why I'm asking this? Okay.
All right. Roll call vote, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dale,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Clough,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion pass. Nothing else on the agenda tonight. Want to thank everyone for coming out and everyone be safe going home. Thank you. We're adjourned.